Okay, welcome back. Quick video today. I want to talk about Juggernaut AI. I want to talk about my 6-month training period using Juggernaut AI for a meet. I want to talk quickly about some things that I like about Juggernaut, some things I don't like about Juggernaut, and then some things that I learned, because I did learn a couple really important things. This video is not a detailed, comprehensive review of Juggernaut AI. If that's what you're looking for, go to Basement Brandon's website or YouTube site. It's got tons of videos. They're great. The guy squats a ton, has a great deadlift, and he's a pretty solid bencher too. And he goes through using Juggernaut and goes through some of his training days. It's really informative. It was why I ended up deciding to utilize Juggernaut. And so if that's what you're looking for, he's already done that. He can do that way better than I can. But what I quickly want to talk about are some things that I haven't heard other people talk about in terms of things that I learned. But first of all, what did I like about Juggernaut? Okay, I used it 6 months in my training to prepare for a meet. I prepared for the USPA Good Morning Classic. It was on 9/11/2022. This video is a little late to get out, but so I worked for 6 months super hard. One thing I really liked was Juggernaut's super easy to use, right? The app's easy to use. It tracks all of your lifts in terms of what you've done in the past with bench at RPE 7 times 3 or whatever. It tracks all of that. It adapts to what you input in. If it's feeling heavy that day and you mark it, a higher RPE than it wanted you to go at, it's going to adjust for you. So it adapts as you put in new information, which is really nice. It does all your programming for you. So if you're busy, you don't have to figure out all your programming for each day and then each week and kind of make sure that you're going heavier. And it does all of that for you. So for people that are busy, that's I think, great. I mean, it's $34.99 a month, which in reality is really good for the value of what it's offering. A personal trainer is much, much more. And even, now there's a lot of online training, which some of it isn't very good, I can tell you from experience. And that's expensive. You're looking at hundreds of dollars a month. So I like that. I like the online community portion of Juggernaut. It's probably the most valuable thing about Juggernaut is you go to the Facebook page and there is a ton of, there's a Juggernaut site, and if you haven't, Facebook page, if you haven't actually gone to the Juggernaut Facebook page and asked questions or read comments or looked at different videos that people post, you're missing out, because that's where tons of questions get asked that I learned from. And also I ask questions like, hey, is this right that it's having me lift on a Wednesday before my meet? Even though it's doing it light, that's not normal. And so people will respond, yeah, that's normal. For this RPE 10 times 3, does that mean I do whatever the weight I can get 3 times the most I can do? Is that what it means? Yes or no? So that online support community is great. Probably the most valuable thing about the whole thing. Just other lifters, other people, variety of expertise levels, people that are not very strong all the way up to people that are super strong. And everybody supports everybody, which is cool, which is the powerlifting community in general. But the Juggernaut AI piece is really, really cool in terms of if you have questions, folks will respond. And then also Juggernaut has all these other videos that really answered a lot of the questions if I would have just spent the time watching the videos. So those are the things I really like about it. Some things that I don't like about it. One is so it's great that it will allow you to adjust volume, adjust what days you want to lift. I like to go high volume. My body recovers well. I like to lift 6 days a week. A lot of programs don't offer 6 days. Juggernaut, you can do 6 days with high volume, but it doesn't allow you to add sets. If you're in a hypertrophy phase of the app, it will allow you to add some sets because it wants you to get a certain amount of reps. So that's nice. But if you're in like a power block or you're in a peaking phase, it doesn't allow you to add sets. So if it says you're going to do 3 sets, working sets of bench, you can't add extra. And what I noticed is I like to go, sometimes I like to go for a heavy single and then have some back down sets. And what I wanted to do with Juggernaut was go up to a heavy single. So let's use bench for example. You know, maybe I want to go and hit 315 for a competition single and then drop down and do the 270 times 4 or whatever it was having me do for my working sets. The way it's set up now is you can't do that. I still did do it because I am who I am, and then I just added it in the notes. But the problem is the history. One of the nice things about Juggernaut is it tracks the history of all your lifts. Well, if you can't add a set, and I'm still adding a set manually, and then adding it in the notes, it's not going to track that. So to me, that was disappointing that it didn't give you the flexibility to add sets. I know there are people that are thinking, why do you want to add sets? You're supposed to follow the programming. If you don't like the programming, do something different. Just the way I'm built and what I've learned is when I do heavy singles, weekly or bi-weekly, my numbers dramatically increase compared to when I don't. And with Juggernaut, the way that the programming set up is you're not going to do super heavy singles, RPE 9.5 singles or RPE 10 very often. You do some RPE 10 doubles and triples and quadruples, but it didn't have me doing, in those 6 months, it had me rarely going up close to my 1 rep max. I think that, for me, I think that hurt me in my meet. I can just tell you, I did it 6 months, hadn't seen some of those high numbers for a while, did the meet, which I'll talk about my results here in a minute. And then after the meet, I did my own thing, and I started to hit some higher singles, and my numbers jumped quickly. So that programming aspect for me didn't work well. So I didn't like that. Most of it I did like. What are some things that I learned? Here's a couple things I learned. Probably the most valuable thing I learned was rate of perceived exertion, RPE, is only as good as what you put in. In other words, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. Okay, that's a data term, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have your RPEs dialed in on truly what a 7 is, truly what an 8 is, the output that the app's going to give you isn't going to be very valuable. And RPE is tough, and I should have spent more time at the beginning really looking into how to rate my RPE. I thought I knew it. Oh, if I can do maybe 2 more. But I underestimate myself a lot. When I think I could only do 2 more, that's, yeah, if I'm just kind of being lazy. But if I really gritted down, I could probably do 4 more, especially if you're talking deadlift or squat. I think bench I'm a little closer on knowing because it's my best lift and it's just the one I've done the longest. But there's some great videos on RPE. I should have spent time and watched those. I should have spent more time reading that. Because I think when I put in an RPE 8, I think it was really probably an RPE 7. When I put in an RPE 9, it was probably an RPE 8. And so I think even though I worked really hard for 6 months, I really hit my accessory exercises really hard. I think I was always 1 back of where I should have been on my main movements, on my big movements, on squat, bench, and deadlift. And I think that did me a disservice. So that was one thing I learned. The other thing is with bench press. Going into the meet, it tells you kind of where it thinks your opener could be, should be, where it thinks you might finish. For bench, it was saying I was going to be 360. I was like, what? You're crazy. I've done 365 touch and go. In fact, I've done it fairly recently. Touch and go is not a competition meet bench. When I hit 365 touch and go, first of all, it touched my chest and I was gone, right? My butt probably came up. My feet were all over the place. It definitely wouldn't have counted in a meet. Touch and go is not a meet bench press. So what I didn't realize till about the end when I posted on the Facebook page about this is you should be doing your first rep of every bench, time you're benching, competition bench, as a competition rep. So if you're going to do 280 times 5, your first rep should be that nice pause and then up. That's the way it should be. So in hindsight, I didn't do that well. If I did it again, I would definitely be doing the competition bench, the first rep on all of my sets. And that would have helped me a lot. Do I recommend it? How did it go? I had a disappointing meet for how hard I worked for 6 months. Sometimes that happens. My bench didn't move, so I hit 325. I don't know what that is in kilograms. It's not exactly 325. Worked hard for 6 months, hit 325 again. I missed 332 or 331. Really expected to get 340. I was nowhere near that. So that was disappointing. Squat, I expected to be around 420, 430. It wasn't. I was 408, I think. And then deadlift, I'm not great at deadlift. I did set a meet PR for deadlift at 408, which is not great, but it's the lift I'm the least proficient at. I've only been doing it for 2 years. So overall, it just wasn't a good meet. Since I've quit doing Juggernaut, my numbers have gone up quite a bit. I've hit 445 on squat. I've hit competition bench. I've hit 340, and I've deadlifted well in the 4s. And I think the reason is, for me, it's those high 1-rep singles that I need at least bi-weekly, which Juggernaut wasn't giving me. So for me, it wasn't the perfect app. Do I recommend it? I think it's a great app. I think for most people it's perfect, or as close to perfect as really you can get. I really think it's a good app. It's easy to use. The community's great. It's just there were some things that didn't work out for me. But you go. The proof's in the pudding. Go look at the people that have used it in the reviews, and they're great. I mean, again, I look at people like Basement Brandon, that guy's squat is incredible. So is his deadlift. And he takes that programming from Juggernaut and runs with it, and it works great. And there's a lot of other people like him. It's also good for people like me that just aren't, I don't want to do my own programming. I don't know if I have enough knowledge to do it well. So I do recommend it. But I would do it a little bit differently. I wish it would add some sets so I could do it, a heavier 1-rep and then kind of do some drop back weight. But that's what I learned. Put in the comments if there's something you disagree with, or if there's something you learned that I didn't touch on. I'd be curious to hear kind of your experience. Anyway, until next time, adios.